Well, I'm now being joined on the program also via telephone by Wale Olu, and we could also be looking at the financial implications for all of this. Good morning, Wale, and thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, Ariel. Thanks for having me.
Well, I just finished speaking with the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Banking and Currency, that's Honorable Jones Onyereri, and we've been having a very interesting conversation. But for you, how well would you say that the objectives of setting up AMCON have been achieved?
Well, I think by and large, AMCON has achieved its objectives substantially. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
What I actually said is, how well would you say the objectives of setting up AMCON have been achieved?
I think the objective for setting up AMCON, to me, can be divided into three segments. The first one is the stabilization of the financial system. To a large extent, that has been achieved. The second objective is to now acquire the assets and hold them until such a time that those assets can be disposed of rather. Then the third part of it will be the winding up stage, when they will not dispose of all these assets and either come out with a loss or a profit, whichever way. So the first one has been achieved. The financial system has been stabilized. The second one is being achieved, which is to hold on to the assets and resolve them and recover loans and then all those other things that goes with it. Then the third one would be at the point of disposal.
Okay, so now that we've established that, let's talk about the public hearing which actually happened 2 days ago. As I said, I spoke with the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Banking and Currency, Honorable Jones Onyereri, who actually presided over that meeting. Now, a major issue that was actually raised is the proposed amendment of the setting up of the resolution cost fund, to which the banks and CBN will make mandatory contributions. What's your take on this?
There are two issues here. I see two issues in this matter. The first one is the fact that the banks on their own have gone to sign agreements with AMCON. I know it's in the national interest to do that, but we must not lose sight of the fact that banking institutions are private companies owned by shareholders. So I wouldn't know if these banks have gone to their shareholders to hold general meetings and get their approval to make this kind of commitment on the assets of the bank. That is on one hand. On the other hand, there is the issue of the fees paid to the Securities and Exchange Commission. I believe these institutions, that's the CBN, as well as the Securities and Exchange Commission, they are different arms of the same government. So when the Securities and Exchange Commission is making money, it is coming to the government coffers. When the CBN is paying those fees, it is paying it to another agency of government. So for me, I think going by the rules that we have now, it is important that CBN considers paying appropriate fees to the regulatory agencies. It is for three reasons. One, they will be setting a good precedent. Number two, they will be showing examples that even when we are asking private institutions to pay, the government itself can also abide by that rule. But the resolution option for me is for the CBN and the Securities and Exchange Commission to sit down and negotiate these fees. You see, the truth of the matter is that even private operators in the market, when they come with very large ticket transactions and the fees to be paid to SEC are among us, what they do is to reach out to SEC, sit down, and then negotiate the fees and see whatever concessions they can get. So my advice to CBN is to focus on negotiation rather than going to the National Assembly to now, muzzle SEC into having to forgo those fees.
Well, one of the reasons that Honorable Jones actually gave for trying to implement or trying to make this amendment to the Act is to protect shareholders' funds. And like what you just said, the banks are actually owned by private individuals. So is it fair to make them pay this contribution fund?
Okay, Harriet, let me put it this way. I don't want to talk for the shareholders because I don't have their mandate. But what I believe is that you cannot shave a man's head in his absence. The shareholders own these banks. It is imperative that they are carried along. They can agree voluntarily to say, look, in the national interest, we support this idea. We don't mind our banks making this contribution to the financial sector resolution. That will be fine by me, but I just want us to follow that process. I don't want us to go to the National Assembly and ambush SEC and ambush the shareholders and make it a legal matter, what ordinarily should be a business and process matter. That is where I stand. I don't think it is extremely fair to the shareholders because they didn't cause the crisis in the first place. The management misconducted themselves by causing the crisis, and the management must be made to pay through the process of the law for all these infractions. CBN has come to intervene, which is in the national interest. I think they should carry the shareholders along by lobbying them and letting them know what they stand to gain as long as they are an investor in the financial system and the banking system is systemically stable. Then clearly the value of the investment will increase in the long run. So let's follow the process.
Now, looking at AMCON, some analysts have actually expressed concern about the huge financial commitment of AMCON to the rescue of the troubled banks, which is in excess of about 2 trillion naira. Now, this is about half of the entire national budget. What's your take on this?
My take on this is this. I don't agree with the amount that has been expended to carry out this banking reform. I agree with the principle of the reform rather. I've always agreed with the principle. Now, the 2 trillion that has been expended is not even the problem. The problem is how we are going to fund it. Part of the reason why they are asking banks to come and contribute to this sinking fund, and the CBN itself is planning to contribute to the sinking fund. This is a proposal which has been taken to the National Assembly. It is not impossible that if the assets taken over by AMCON, can begin to appreciate over time, and they can be more efficient in the recovery of loans. Like what they are holding now are assets, which are loans, properties, and the rest of them. So 3 things they need: to be able to ring-fence them against litigation, because if all this litigation drag, they will not be able to sell the assets that they are holding. The second thing AMCON needs is to be able to get interested in how the economy gets better, so that as the economy gets better, the value of the assets they are holding continues to appreciate. And that might even make the need for having to commit banks to make this contribution completely irrelevant.
Now, going forward, what's the best thing now for the Nigerian banking system? We know that it's one of the core of it is the core of the economy, and if anything happens to it, then a lot of people begin to get worried. Now, what is the way forward for sustaining the sustainability and confidence in Nigeria's banking system?
There are two possibilities there. The banking system is stable as it is today because of the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We commend the CBN for that. Now, going forward, we already have about 2 trillion in the coffers of AMCON. If you do an analysis today and we say, let AMCON sell everything it has as at today, and then we do a valuation of it, we'll be able to determine the potential loss that we arrive out of a disposal if we were to dispose today. Hypothetically, that loss at a point in time, the government must be able to brace itself up to the possibility of having to absorb some of these losses. There is no way they can expect only the central bank and the banks to make this contribution. What if the capital market continues to go down? What if asset valuation continues to go down? There's no way we can have control over this. These things are market determined. So what CBN has done today is to determine what they will require between now and when they finally resolve the problem. But there are variables that are not within their control. So in most jurisdictions of the world, the government stands firm to say this is part of the cost of resolution and stabilizing the financial system. The federal government should be able to absorb part of it when we get to that point of determining the gap between what the assets of AMCON can bring into AMCON and those ones that we regard as being lost. It's a cost of resolution. It's a government and public fund issue. You cannot only leave it to the CBN and the private banks.
All right, thank you so much, Wale, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Harriet.
Well, I've been speaking with Wale Oluwo. He's a financial analyst, and we've been looking at the AMCON amendment bill, the issues actually surrounding it. I also spoke with the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Banking and Currency, Honorable James Onyereri, and he says all the amendments that we're actually going to be seeing come forth on the AMCON Act is in the best interest of public, of actually the public who have deposits in banks. Well, that's the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Harriet Agbeyin.